At this stacked final table in Atlantic City, bust-outs have been hard to come by. 9 started, and after just 2 eliminations, 7 are left. Someone must step up. Will it be Micah Raskin and his big stack? Can Andy Frankenberger continue his hot year? Or will a seasoned pro stake claim to first place prize money and the World Series of Poker circuit ring? 7 must become 1, and that starts now. Welcome to Harrah's Atlantic City for the conclusion of the World Series of Poker East Regional Championship final table. Ali Najad along with bracelet winner Antonio Esfandiari. 7 players remain at a final table where no one is willing to give an inch. What do you expect?
Chris Klodnicki playing very solid, picked up aces, got some action earlier. Micah Raskin has taken the chip lead, very unconventional player. Who knows what's going to happen?
Don't count out Chris Bell either out of North Carolina. He's got plenty of felt time underneath his belt and still right there at the top of the chip counts along with Micah and Klodnicki. Plenty of brains in the field. Todd Terry in 4th, graduated magna cum laude in applied math from Harvard. Then, for good measure, magna cum laude from NYU Law School. Ketan Pandya running 5th currently in chips. Rutgers graduate in engineering. Jason Burt, who folds the 10-9, graduated from Caltech. And Andy Frankenberger, who's got over $1 million in career tournament winnings, turned down Harvard to go to Duke. It's like academics week here in Atlantic City.
Pretty strong to turn down Harvard.
The computer hand, Queen 7 for Ketan.
I'm all in.
He lays it down. Spidey senses must have been tingling because Todd Terry insta-ships behind him out of the small blind with ace-7 off for 212 total, and it's ace-9 for Frankenberger.
I like this ace-7, putting Frankenberger all in here.
Call.
Despite the fact that it is a dominated hand now that Frankenberger has made the call.
Oh my gosh.
Not the best spot for Terry.
But don't be results-oriented is the moral of the story.
Absolutely. I mean, he's in a small blind. Everybody folded. He's only got to get through one more hand. He's short stacked. He's got to get it in.
Right play. Possibly wrong result. And so far, that seems to be the case. Ace-9 holding on the 10-high rainbow board. 3 outs twice for Todd Terry.
That's a terrible card for Terry.
The kicker will definitely play. Queen of clubs on the river. And Andy's fired up.
Frankenberger.
Ace-9.
He looks like he's about to go in a UFC match of some sort.
Yeah, he looks pissed off. Hey, Andy, you just won the pot, buddy.
Were you calling start or think about
This regional championship is just one of 4 10K events that lead to the Circuit Promised Land. 100 players will qualify, 9 of whom were at this final table. The winner of the national championship wins a World Series gold bracelet and a share of the $1 million prize pool. $1 million events, always attracting the best and the brightest that poker has to offer. 5-6 suited for Frankenberger.
Looks like he wants to play it. He might be playing the rush.
Yeah, chip on top of his cards mean they're not hitting the muck anytime soon. Raised to $35,000.
I'm all in.
All in.
Ace-8 suited from Jason Burt moves all in for 224 total. And 2 jacks for Chris Klodnicki, who makes the easy call on the button.
Based on the action before him, this is a clear call with 2 jacks.
Chris Bell wakes up with 2 queens.
Wow.
Shouldn't be a tough decision.
It's not as clear-cut as you would think. The only person he really has to worry about is Klodnicki, because he has all the chips.
Any chance Klodnicki's smooth calling with kings or aces on the button?
I don't think so. I think in this particular spot he would re-raise.
224.
I mean, he could, but it's unlikely.
54, 5, 6. I got 619. I'm all in.
619, you're all in?
I think that's
all
what I
in
got.
for 619.
Chris Bell's going to take his chances, moving all in for his $619,000. Klodnicki does not like his spot.
He's in a tough spot. Bell could either have ace-king, kings, aces.
Maybe queens.
Call.
I'm
You
folding.
said it right? Oh, I thought you said it right.
All right, that's probably the best result for me. That's probably the best result.
Klodnicki saying he thought he had queens, feeling great about having laid down 2 jacks. Not feeling quite as great is Jason Burt, who's in rough shape on the 6-6-7 board, but picks up a little life on the turn with the 4. Neither player with the spade. Jason needs an ace or a 5, cannot hit it, and Chris Bell is going to pick up a huge pot, sending Jason Burt home early in this evening's action.
Burt ran a little bad at the final table. He lost 4 all-ins, and you can't expect to win when you're unlucky.
On his way out, Jason taking a look back at the remaining 6, all of whom have moved up about $15,000 in payout. Jason Burt taking home over $50,000 for his work. The real money is the over $350,000 at the top there. Let's not forget, in addition to the accolade, you pick up the World Series of Poker circuit ring,
which is always a nice bonus.
Yeah, you're a bling kind of guy.
Minimal bling.
Minimal bling. Subtle bling.
Subtle bling.
Ace-8 off for Pandya. And he just lays it down in the cutoff.
This is a surprising fold. He's in the cutoff. He's only got to get through the button and the blinds with short stacks behind him. I would have come in for a raise.
Andy Frankenberger in the small blind with ace-deuce suited. He's an intense character.
He's got the look. This is not the UFC, Frankenberger.
Well, it's the call look, not the raise look. And that's the good look. Ace-king.
Klodnicki's always going to be raising here. When Frankenberger limps in the small blind, it shows a lot of weakness. So a lot of players in the big blind in this situation would pump it up.
35,000 extra to call. Andy puts it out there.
Frankenberger believes he has the best hand right now with ace high.
And those 3 cards spell trouble for Frankenberger.
Anytime in a heads-up pot when both opponents flop top pair, there's going to be some chips splashing.
Andy leading right out.
This is an interesting lead. He limp called pre-flop. If he checks, Klodnicki's always going to take a stab at it, I think.
Raise.
Klodnicki making it 150,000 min raise. Andy does have the wheel draw.
I don't think that he's going to be going anywhere. Except maybe home.
All in.
All in.
Andy ships it. Klodnicki makes the quick call and over 760,000 in the middle. Andy's in trouble. King takes away the deuce out. Frankenberger now needs to hit the 3 to make a wheel. Otherwise, it's adios. 9 of clubs means a 6th place finish for Andy.
Perhaps he's thinking he could have played a little stronger in the beginning. He played a little conservative early on, and it didn't help his chances.
But his stack is helping Chris Klodnicki, who is the defending champion in this event. Right now, he's threatening to do it again with just 5 players left.
Morning, James.
That does it. Put it in the contact lens in my eye, and without my hands, it's more hygienic that way. Read about it in a magazine. Works excellent. It's wonderful. All right, I'm ready for the sales. I'm all over the sales report. Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, Bob.
Bad poker face? Doesn't matter when you play online at partypoker.com. It's fun, it's easy, it's the world's largest poker room.
Other eye.
Welcome back to Harrah's Atlantic City, where we caught up with Andy Frankenberger, our 6th place finisher.
I told myself going into today I would not play a big pot against Chris Klodnicki out of position, but with my flush draw, pre-flop, and then the ace hit, and I had a straight draw, he could be playing any 2 cards. As I replay in my head, I don't think I can't see myself getting away from it.
Apparently no regrets for Andy Frankenberger. It's always a nice way to bow out.
He's happy with the way he played his hand. He'll sleep fine tonight.
45,000.
Meanwhile, Micah Raskin, who's also doing fine with 2 queens, has made it 45,000, and Keaton Pandya is moving all in for 262 total right behind him.
With the blinds at 8 and 16,000, given that Pandya has 262,000, I think this is the correct play.
Have count. Pull it in.
Raskin asking for the chips to be pulled in. There's no chance he's mucking 2 queens.
I think it's as close to 0% as possible. This would fall under the slightly slow rollish category.
Yeah.
Carried my 1.
I call.
There's the call. Keaton looks at 2 queens. Has the eye roll, too.
The very unhappy eye roll.
Queen.
5, yeah.
Here comes the flop. 2 8s and 2 clubs. Nut flush draw for Pandya. Plenty of outs right now, and even more on the turn. He picks up an open-ender.
There's a lot of outs.
17 to be exact. Deuce of clubs on the river, and Pandya stays alive. The family's fired up.
Papa is stoked.
5, John.
It's actually amazing Pandya had enough in his tank just to get this far.
I was actually ready, all set to play the 10K. I was driving down and I ran out of gas. I knew the cutoff was about 5 p.m. I reached the tournament area around 5:20ish. Supposedly they had some delay in the tournament start time. It was delayed by half an hour, so that was the reason I kind of snuck into this one, and I guess I was meant to be. Here I am on the final table.
You can bet that guy is not sweating the cost of a gallon of gas at this point. Poised to make plenty of cash, regardless of his finish, which is looking that much better after the double up. 9-7 suited here. Pink chips now in play, each worth 10,000.
Pandya loves the suited connectors. The blinds have gone up to 10 and 20,000.
Ante's also up to 3,000, but Pandya keeping the raise at 45,000.
It's a small raise, just a little over 2x.
Speaking of small, how about a couple of 3s for Klodnicki?
Klodnicki should play this hand. He's on the button. He has superior position. What he doesn't want to do is 3-bet and get 4-bet to not be able to see the flop.
Chris flats. Micah Raskin will take a ride for an extra quarter. Oh boy.
This is big trouble for Raskin. There's no situation where he's going to be able to get away from it, unless it's checked and there's another heart on the turn.
8 high flush for Micah, 9 high flush for Keaton. Micah leads right out for 160.
I like this. You don't put him on a flush when he leads out.
Pot size bet.
Pandya trying to think what he can do to get all the money in the pot.
Smooth calling would be risky.
He doesn't want to smooth call and have another heart peel on the turn.
That's right. But that's exactly what he does for 160.
If he can dodge a heart on the turn, he's guaranteed to get the rest of Raskin's chips on the turn.
To be fair, he was probably guaranteed to get them anyway, and now the 4th heart is probably going to freeze some of this action. Micah checks.
The action will slow down with this card.
Keaton checks behind. River pairs the board.
Raskin doesn't realize how lucky that King of Hearts was for him on the turn.
Checks a second time. Now what do you do with the 9 high flush?
You could check it down. You could value bet it. Against Raskin, you might want to check because he's capable of doing a check raise there.
Keaton does end up checking in position and rolling over the flush. That look on his face says it all. Just a few hands ago, Keaton was facing elimination, and now he's wondering how he missed out on all those chips.
The most amateur thing I see quite often is people making the wrong raise or betting too much or too little.
That's one of the biggest amateur mistakes, is not being able to get away from an overpair when the money's deep.
Just not understanding how deep the chip stacks are. When you're playing 25-50 and somebody goes broke, I mean, it really should be a real cold deck. It shouldn't be, you know, second nut flush against nut flush. I mean, and that happens with amateurs a lot.
Couple of professionals at the top of the leaderboard right now with Raskin in third. Let's talk about Pandya's play just before the break, however. Got to be some regret revolving around not having shipped it in on the flop.
Looking back, I'm sure he regrets just flat calling the flop and perhaps not value betting the river.
Can't be too upset with a 9-high flush when the king, jack, and 10 of hearts are on the board.
There's only 2 hearts that can beat you. Sometimes you have to get value for your hand.
I don't think I'm getting 2-1 though.
Micah Raskin lays down king 5.
2-1 with the hand.
Back to Pandya.
I assume you're folding.
He lays down the 4-5, and Todd Terry's going to ship 126 in there with queen 3 suited on the button.
He's hoping that no one calls and he can win the antes and the blinds.
He can keep hoping because Chris Klodnicki with ace-8 off is just min re-raised. That gets the big blind out.
Very wide.
So we'll scale it back to 126 total to cover Todd Terry. And there's 287 in this pot. We've seen Todd Terry do the shoulder bag move before.
How's it worked out for him?
He flopped a set against an overpair.
That's not too good.
But this time he's up against top 2 with queen 3. It is not looking good. And on the turn, he's drawing dead. That means Todd Terry is your 5th place finisher.
Good luck.
Ceremonious adios.
Great luck. You play good every time I play with you. Good job.
And of course, there's the small matter of 87,000 and change, which is topped off with some nice words from Chris Bell. Chris Klodnicki claiming his 2nd straight knockout. Not much to this one. Todd Terry hung on as long as he could with the short stack, but goes out in 5th. The 2 Chris's squarely at the top of the leaderboard, the only 2 millionaires in chips. Caton and Micah, however, hanging around.
Chip in a chair.
More than one chip, that's for sure. Caton Pandya, 9-7 off, hits the muck. 7 deuce suited for Klodnicki. Not even he is that adventurous. 2 hooks for Chris Bell.
In the small blind. No one ever gives you enough credit in the small blind.
Can't blame him either. Looks so much like a steal. Chris makes it 56,000. Mike has got ace-9.
I smell trouble for Raskin.
There's a Helmuthian vibe about Raskin right now. The Oakleys, the hands in front of the mouth.
Only thing is missing the massive ego.
Let's not forget the 11 World Series bracelets.
He does have 11 bracelets. How he got them, I don't know.
Micah looks like he's going to re-raise. 160 total.
I like this 3-bet. He has an ace in his hand. There's a very good chance that Bell is out there stealing.
Reality is, however, that Bell's got 2 jacks, but he's only going to call 104 more.
This call is questionable. He's got jacks out of position against a very aggressive player. How is he going to play once an overcard or 2 come on the flop?
We'll find out in a second. Dealer rips 3 off the top of the stub and spreads them out. 10-9 queen, all hearts. Open-ended straight flush draw for Chris Bell. Pair of 9s for Micah.
The check is pretty standard by Bell. Raskin re-raised pre-flop, and he expects Raskin to follow through on the flop with a continuation bet.
That's exactly what Micah does, to the tune of 200,000. Now what?
It's a little tricky after this flop. He does have a pair of jacks. He also has a straight draw along with the flush draw. I don't think he wants to slow play this hand. I think he's looking to just ship it right here.
And that's exactly what he does. He has Micah Raskin covered. It's going to take the rest of Micah's chips to call. Should be a standard fold for most players, but you get the feeling with Micah, you kind of got to hold your breath.
Guy keeps it exciting.
I fold.
Not this time.
Show.
That's it.
I'll show 1.
Bet it's CSRs. I bet it's CSRs.
Wow.
What was it?
Jack of hearts.
Jack of hearts. Okay. It's like ace hearts.
Chris Bell flashes the jack of hearts to the table, but the other one, that'll remain a mystery. Harrah's Atlantic City is an ideal destination to relax and take your mind off of everyday life. Whether it's a quiet night in one of the newly renovated suites or a day at the pool, you'll leave Atlantic City refreshed and invigorated. What started out as a slow East Regional Championship has transformed quickly. Seth Fisher busted in 9th place, and Nick Mitchell quickly followed him in 8th when he got a little too creative with Ace-Jack. Jason Burt ran bad, then got it in as an underdog and said goodbye in 7th. Andy Frankenberger's patience got him all the way to 6th place, but that's where his final table run came to an end. Todd Terry worked a short stack well, but he got no help with Queen 3 against Chris Klodnicki. And now here we are, four-handed for the championship. From everything we've seen, it would be surprising if the two Chris's didn't end up heads up. But Caton Pandya's giving him hell. Not this hand with 3-4 offsuit. 2 6s for Klodnicki on the button. No question what he's doing. Raised to 45,000. Chris Bell lays down in the small, and Raskin ships it for 360 total with King 10 off. Klodnicki makes the quick call.
I like the ship. There's a lot of hands that Klodnicki can't call with, and the blinds are really high.
Yeah, so you make quick calls.
Well, good call.
Here's the flop. Ace high, 2 6s holding on. Raskin looking for a king or a 10 for a diamonds. Not it. And Micah's tournament life is down to hitting one of 6 cards. That's not one of them. Micah Raskin's run comes to an end in 4th place. He was the one-time chip leader at this final table.
He played a little too spewy at times.
Yeah, that volatile style will take you from riches to rags and back again, but this time it's a 4th place exit. Good for a little over 117 grand. Always help yourself to some amp on the way out, Micah.
7. I accidentally used a 2 instead of 1.
So we kick off three-handed action with the blinds at 10 and 20,000. No small blind in this hand. That's where Raskin would have been. So one big blind out there, which Klodnicki will promptly attack with A7. Caton Pandya with Queen 9 suited.
Call.
We know he's not folding that hand.
Calls for the extra quarter. Value priced pot of 99,000. King high flop.
Both players missed the flop entirely. Klodnicki still in the lead with the ace high.
Pandya checks. Klodnicki checks. No continuation bet. 5 of diamonds on the turn. Gives Klodnicki an open-ended straight draw. Pandya checks again.
If he checked the flop and it got checked to him again on the turn, I'm not sure why he would bet here.
Chris sticks 50,000 out there.
Betting the turn here doesn't make much sense to me. Once he checks the flop, now he picks up a draw on the turn, and he could possibly have the best hand with the ace high. I'm probably not going to open myself up to a possible check raise.
And that's exactly what Klodnicki has done. Look at Pandya playing like a pro. Sensing the weakness, sticking an extra 110 out there.
Klodnicki's going to be forced to call here. He has position, he has a straight draw, he also has an ace in his hand.
Chris doing the math. 110 for a shot at 309 and maybe more. Makes the call.
Pandya has taken control of this pot. If Klodnicki blanks off on the river and Pandya takes another stab at it, what is Klodnicki going to do?
Definitely not blanking off is Klodnicki. Ace of hearts on the river, giving him top pair. Caton bets 175.
This feels like a pretty easy call. The heart comes, and Pania isn't even remotely scared. He just fires right out. And usually when a scary card comes and you have a made hand, you know, you tend to get a little bit scared. And he's trying to show that he's not scared at all.
Representing strength.
That's all.
Chris calls.
I'm really curious to see what would have happened had an ace not rolled off on the river. Pania is always following through. What is Klodnicki going to do when he misses?
Fact is, he didn't miss, made the call, and is now riding a huge wave of confidence to go with that impressive chip lead. We'll return to Harrah's Atlantic City with more of the WSOP Circuit East Regional in a moment. Coverage of the final table of the World Series of Poker East Regional Championship continues from Harrah's Atlantic City. 3 players left, all chasing the $358,000 first place prize. Blinds are up to 12 and 24,000 with a $3K ante. Chris Bell on the button with a suited ace. Standard and customary is a raise, and it's to 56,000. King Jack for Keaton Pandya.
Short-handed, these are both pretty good hands.
Keaton ships it all in for 366,000.
I like Keaton's style. He's not afraid to put his chips in the middle. He's got a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Very courageous young man. Now it's 310,000 more for Chris Bell to call.
It is short-handed. He does have the ace in his hand. It's a tough call, but in the end, sometimes you have to put your money in the middle.
That's exactly what Chris is doing, and Keaton appears to know his King Jack is unlikely to be good.
Live.
Indeed, he's behind. A little lucky shake weight there from Pandya.
Did you have a king or jack?
You had a king and jack? Huh? I had a6.
Flop comes out king high. Pandya looking good to stay alive. Now Klodnicki has told the table that he laid down the a6, so Bell knows he's only got 2 outs.
Very disheartening situation for Bell.
Pandya looking good for a huge double up. And that ices it. Keaton getting plenty of support as he has all final table long from his family. Chris Bell, meanwhile, losing the race. But as we found out, life is pretty good for the North Carolina native.
We're from a small town. We're a proud community. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are, proud of me. There was a point to where I started playing more poker, making more money playing poker than I was selling real estate. And I was actually doing really well playing poker. But she decided, she got it in her head that maybe she needed to go and get Gamblers Anonymous. So I didn't go. Obviously, I was playing poker when she went. She said, well, when I got there, everybody was going around saying their name and what they did. So I stood up and told them. They said, well, what does your husband do? And she said, well, he plays poker. The lady says, oh, I bet he's taking the credit card and maxed the credit cards out. Joanna said, well, no, actually, we don't even have any credit card debt right now. And she what about your financial situation? And Joanna said, well, actually, we're better off financially than we've ever been. And the lady said, well, you can sit down. My parents, when I first started playing, I remember being at a family reunion, my mom saying, well, what am I supposed to tell people you do for a living? And now, anytime it looks like I'm going to be on TV, calling all their friends, they're telling everybody. So it went from, what am I supposed to do to tell me you do for a living to they want to tell the whole world.
Chris Bell, really one of the class acts in poker. Hard to find anybody who'll say anything bad about him.
Don't know him well personally. From what I hear, he's a great guy, and he's friends with Gavin Smith, who I love and adore.
Love and adore.
Love and adore.
That's strong. Almost as strong as raising to 50,000 with 10-9 offsuit on the button. Chris Bell calls with 7-8 suited. Keaton Pandya looks at napkins, returns to sender, and the 2 Chris's will do battle heads up. 8 high flop.
I don't like the call pre-flop by Bell. I never want to put myself in that situation with 8 high out of position. In this particular case, he happened to flop top pair.
Both players check the flop. 4 hits the turn.
Once Klodnicki checks the flop, Bell is almost near certain that his top pair 8s is the best hand.
And his bet of 80,000 seems to reflect that awareness.
Klodnicki should be done with the hand. He has 10 high. He checked the flop, which basically means he's giving it up.
Au contraire, my good friend. Plenty of pink being shoveled toward the pot. 190,000 of it to be exact.
The only thing he's repping here is ace deuce, perhaps maybe a 6-7. I don't like this play. There's not many hands he could have here.
Jason, I've got 566 more. I'm all in.
That was a sexy all-in.
Yeah, whispered into the dealer's ear, no less.
And Bell sees right through Klodnicki. He knew his 8 was good, and he had no fear.
Klodnicki definitely took a suspect line. Chris Bell, even if he was up against the ace-deuce, the one hand that he would have had to worry about, he wasn't going to be drawn dead if Klodnicki called.
He did pick up the gutter on the turn.
Klodnicki taking a small hit there with the mistimed bluff, but he doesn't have much to worry about. Bell and Pandya under $1 million, while Klodnicki sits at over 2.5. Blind still at 12 and 24,000. 2 10s for Caton. Not a matter of if, but rather how much, and it's 55,000. 2 deuces for Klodnicki. Coming off that pot he just lost.
You always have to take into consideration what the other players think of you at the table.
Klodnicki makes it 175, and there's the real pocket pair. It belongs to Chris Bell, 2 queens.
This is amazing. 3-handed, 3 pocket pairs.
For Chris Bell,
I'm all in.
It's going to be an all-in to 966,000.
This puts Pandya in a tough spot. He has a pair of 10s. It's 3-handed. He got raised and re-raised, and his whole tournament life is at risk here.
Best case scenario, he's up against 2 overcards in one of the 2 spots, if not beat.
Chris Bell could very easily have ace-king, possibly ace-queen suited. It's going to be hard to fold 2 10s.
Pandya calls off the remainder of his stack. Should be a pretty easy fold for Klodnicki, which he makes.
Keep him set up here.
Queen.
And here's the bad news for Caton, who really has played his heart out to this point.
An ace, Chris.
Gonna need some luck to avoid the exit.
Should have just called off anyway. I better gonna hit.
9 high flop, not gonna be doing him any favors. The bell tolls for Caton Pandya. He needs a 10 or a couple of runners. Strike 2. One last swing of the bat. Strike 3. Caton Pandya is out in 3rd place. And the Pandya Express is going to take his 160,000 to go. With Micah Raskin and Caton Pandya out of the way, the 2 most established pros at this final table get to go one-on-one for the ring and the cash. Chris Bell trails and has about 75 big blinds, while Klodnicki will start heads up with the chip lead. Both players pretty deep stacked. Who do you like?
It's going to be any man's game. Obviously, I'm going to go with the guy that has more chips, as I do think they're both very good players.
Klodnicki starts on the button with a less than desirable 9 deuce suited, but he'll keep the pressure on, raising to 50,000. And Bell's going to start heads up with 2 jacks.
Pretty good hand to start with. You always want to set the tone when you get heads up. You want to let your opponent know that you're going to be raising and gambling and taking control a lot. And that is what Klodnicki is trying to do with the 9 deuce.
Bell saying he won't be pushed around. Little does Klodnicki know that statement is being made with a real hand. Klodnicki doesn't want to set a precedent for getting pushed around either.
No, but at the same time, he does have 9 deuce, and it's okay to fold once in a while.
375 total.
Try telling that to Chris. He's raising to 375 total.
2 1/4 more. All right.
225 more for Chris Bell.
Klodnicki trying to show Bell that he will not be pushed around. Trying to take control of this heads-up match.
Bell could easily ship.
And I think he will. He does have a pair of jacks heads up.
If you're up against queens, kings, or aces, so be it.
All in.
Chris moves all in. Klodnicki looks suspicious, but he lets go of the 9-deuce easily at this point. And Chris Bell picks up a pretty healthy pot to kick things off. One that'll give him the chip lead. Not Chris Klodnicki's finest moment. Let's take a look now at our Amp Energy hand of the day. Ketan Pandya's tournament life was on the line, and he trailed Chris Bell. But a king on the flop and a couple of bricks gave him hope at winning the title. In the end, though, it was Bell who would have the last laugh after Pandya ran his pocket tens into Bell's pocket queens. And that's when Ketan's surprising run came to an end. Pretty hard to give the Amp hand of the day to anyone else. Pandya was into it.
He was. He had heart. He had follow through. I give him credit.
He had 2 10s at the wrong time is what he had.
Raise 55. 65.
Raised by Chris Bell to 65,000. Both players with an ace.
If you have an ace heads up, you probably have the best hand to start.
Can't say it often enough. It does ring true. Ace high flop. This could be trouble. Klodnicki checks.
Klodnicki in big trouble here. He's got top pair in a heads up situation. He's going to lose some chips.
Bell betting 85,000.
I like this bet by Bell a lot. If he had nothing going into the flop, he would have stabbed at the flop just the same. So he might as well go for it when he has top pair.
Really helping to disguise the strength of his hand by betting.
Definitely.
Ironically enough, action on Klodnicki.
Klodnicki, no reason to check raise. He's got a pair of aces. His opponent has bet into him. I would just call.
He disagrees, makes it 230,000.
I wouldn't want to open the door here with a pair of aces 5 kicker. If my opponent is bluffing, I want to keep him on the hook.
Chris Bell just calls.
I like this call. He has position. He has top pair. His kicker is average. He's got a 9 kicker. What he doesn't want to do is build this pot to be too big. He wants to keep it small. He's got position.
Jack pairs on the turn, giving Klodnicki the nut flush draw. Almost 600,000 in the middle. Klodnicki checks.
Bell could easily have a jack in his hand. He did call a check raise on the flop. Perhaps he did it with second pair. Maybe he has an ace.
Bell checks behind Klodnicki, and this is going to be a chop pot at a showdown. Third jack on the end takes the kicker issue out of the equation.
780,000.
I call.
Call.
Bet of 780,000 and a quick call by Bell.
I think Bell makes a small mistake in this pot. The way the hand plays down, Klodnicki can't have a jack in his hand. So Bell, not to raise Klodnicki all in on the river, takes away the free roll chance that Klodnicki might fold the ace.
Might is right, but in all likelihood, he would have called. We'll never know. Plenty of high-level poker still to come. Chris Bell with a slight chip lead. Blind still at 12 and 24,000. Ante's at 3K. Another ace, this time for Klodnicki on the button. He raises to 60,000.
60.
And again, Bell with a better ace. The best ace, in fact.
200.
It's
200.
quite brutal to be in a heads-up situation and have the worst ace twice.
Bell is 3-bet to 200,000. 140 more for Klodnicki to call.
Bell playing some strong poker.
He's raised pretty much every chance he's had. got to be piquing Chris Klodnicki's suspicions. And he just lays it down.
That's a very good laydown. He must have some sort of tell on Bell. It's pretty hard to fold an ace on the button heads up.
For 140 more after you have 60 invested.
Bell did put in a pretty big 3-bet. Could have been a sign.
Button now on Chris Bell. Had a pretty tough go of things in 08 and 09. He almost quit poker, but then in 2010 he picked up a World Series of Poker bracelet, which he gave to his dad. Dad wears it several times a week. Pocket threes now for Chris Bell on the button. He makes it $75,000 to go. And 2 overcards for Klodnicki.
Hard to have 2 undercards for Klodnicki.
But apparently not hard to 3-bet with 6 high. He makes it $225. $150 more for Chris Bell to call.
I like the 3-bet by Klodnicki. In heads-up situations, you really have to get out there and mix it up.
Don't want to be too passive. Can't be afraid to re-raise light. Bell in the tank.
Call.
He makes the call. Pot up to 456. Here comes the flop. Trouble.
Klodnicki flops top pair with an open-ended straight draw. He really can't ask for better after 3-betting with the 6 high. Bell flops bottom set.
$260.
260 is the lead by Klodnicki. Any sense in Chris Bell's slow playing?
I don't think he's going to slow play it. I think raising is the correct play. He doesn't want to call and have a scary card come on the turn. If Klodnicki happens to have an overpair, a deuce 4 or 7 can really slow down the action.
On the flip side, Chris Bell would hate to raise here and lose his man.
I'm all in.
All in.
Bell ships it.
Call.
Klodnicki with a pretty casual call. And this is for his tournament.
I think it's a call. He has top pair with the straight draw. There's a lot of money in the pot.
Got to be willing to gamble.
Bell could have had ace 5. I'm surprised that he moved all in with the pocket threes. I would have made a raise, leaving the door open for Klodnicki to possibly come over the top, thinking he could get Bell off a hand.
Fortunately for Bell, Klodnicki had enough to call. He breaks the turn, and now he's down to a deuce or a 7 to take a nearly insurmountable chip lead and keep his title defense hopes alive. No dice. Chris Bell is your WSOP Circuit East Regional Champion.
Good game, Chris. I run a lot better than you heads up, buddy. When you see me, if they show a lot of our hands heads up, you just...
Humble in victory is Chris Bell, whose flopped set holds up as he ends Chris Klodnicki's bid to go back-to-back in AC. A big score for Bell as he takes home over $358,000 and the World Series of Poker circuit ring. It's been a long road, but Bell is back on top.
The hand where they got raised and he re-raised and I moved all in and won that pot. I really needed that hand. I only had $600,000, which was enough, but it wasn't a lot. I mean, he had me 3-1 at a time.
Chris Bell's Cinderella story reached its climax tonight as he battled through a tough final table to win nearly $400,000 and the World Series of Poker circuit ring. One of the classiest players on the tour used a few timely bluffs and a couple of big pairs to score the victory. Chris Bell, World Series of Poker East Regional Champion. For Antonio Esfandiari, I'm Ali Najad saying so long from Atlantic City.